we start with Nebraska?
Okay.
Because 6-time national champ, Jay just absolutely ran the 90s. Tom Osborne was such a good coach. He was like, I'll go to Congress, and then I'll come back from Congress, and I'll take over, and I'll run the whole entire organization as far as athletic directors. Remember, he almost became governor of the state of Nebraska. You think he matters? 94, 95, 97 national championships at Nebraska. That feels like a long way away. Why? 6 years without a winning season. And I can tell you, Dustin, and I can tell you, Amal, no one, and I mean literally no one, had Scott Frost being embarrassed. Okay, maybe you said, I don't see it with Frost. Maybe you said, I don't buy the hype like everybody else with Frost and Martinez. Remember that first year, but nobody had him being absolutely embarrassed to the point where it was an unmitigated disaster. So you go through Frost. Here comes Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule, by the way, we should all get his deal. He's making over $9 million at Nebraska, and he's getting paid $30 million not to coach the Carolina Panthers. It's a good gig if you can get it. Temple resurrected that program, 2 straight 10-win seasons. Baylor on his way out to Carolina had 11-win season. He's taken over a team that was 4-8 last year, Amal Shah. 3-6 in the Big. Lost a lot of close games, so maybe that balance comes from coaching this year. Let's dive in to 2023's Nebraska football team.
Yeah, this is an interesting team right now when you look at it. First of all, this is, as you alluded to, last year, it played a lot of tight games, statistically very much on par with offensively and defensively compared to their competition. But can they get over that hump? That's the big thing when you look at this team. I think Matt Rhule will give them an injection of positivity that they were lacking with Scott Frost previously, and you hit the nail on the head. I actually thought Scott Frost would be decent. I didn't know how good he would be, but I didn't think he'd be a mitigated disaster. This team right now, they've got a ton of starters back. Near the top in the Big Ten with 16 returning starters, Wisconsin with 17. Both sides of the ball, they've got good depth. This is going to be interesting for me is the quarterback situation in Lincoln. Casey Thompson's the guy that's expected to be potentially a starter there. I'm sorry, not Casey Thompson. It was last year. Jeff Sims, the Georgia Tech transfer, he comes in. I like his mobility, but Patrick, same problem that they had with Martinez. Incredible maneuverability, but doesn't throw the ball with accuracy. Can he get it done? I'm not completely sure he can do that. They've got Billy Kemp coming in, the transfer from Virginia. He's pretty effective in terms of receiving the football, but again, 2 ACC guys coming from programs that were doormats. Can they kind of help get this thing going offensively? Defensively, they're decent. They're solid. But when I look at this team overall, the expectations are somewhere in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten West. I don't really have a high or strong affinity for them. I think they'll get some wins. The early test for them going up to Minnesota, I think that's a tough spot for them. They've got to go on the road at Illinois, at Michigan State. Their road games, to me, are more difficult than some of their home games, and you generally want those home games to be a bit more challenging because then you want the road games to be softer. So this team is going to fight to potentially get to a bowl game. A 7-win season, including the bowls, is a success in my opinion.
Yeah, regular season win total set at 6. If you want to go over them all, and Dustin, it's -150 at DraftKings. I like the under here. I'm not going to lie. First off, they got a big upgrade. Not just Matt Rhule. Marcus Satterfield left South Carolina to come to Nebraska. That's a huge get for Rhule. He was awesome running the South Carolina offense with a terrible offensive line. This Nebraska offensive line is getting reshuffled. You know, they went to the portal, kind of reorganizing, don't really know what we have. You mentioned Jeff Sims, Amal, and Dustin, 15 games played last 2 years. If he plays, he's tall, he's slender, dual threat, big arm. I like Jeff Sims a lot. Casey Thompson, Florida Atlantic, he left. Wide receivers, Marcus Washington's a stud. You mentioned Kemp. Keep an eye on Malachi Coleman, the big-time recruit. They brought in a bunch of wide receivers. So that's not a question, Dustin. I'll throw it to you. They lost 5 games by a touchdown or less last year. Can coaching be the difference? 4 wins last year. 6 is the win total at DK.
I'm a big Matt Rhule guy. He's back where he belongs in college football. I think his kind of the way he speaks to players plays better to a collegiate athlete than it does to a professional. And he's a guy who's won at a couple of programs where it's not easy to win at. I mean, he won 10 games at Temple. He won 11 at Baylor. He turned programs around that were absolute disasters when it came to just what they were up against, not just on the field, but also off the field. This may be the hardest test of all because the expectations are pretty low at Temple, and Baylor is at least what it is in the Big 12. recruiting and winning at Nebraska is something that feels almost near impossible. The thing about Matt Rhule for this season specifically is he's a guy who always gets a long leash, it looks like. He always gets a chance to work his way through. So I expect this team to slowly build. If you look at Temple, his first year, they went 2-10. His first year at Baylor, they went 1-11. Like, he's going to be given a chance here to really build this program back up from the ground. Because he's an offensive line guy, I think it's going to start there in the trenches and the line of scrimmage and then work its way out. With that, I think for this season, that means that they're going to lose a couple games to some inferior talent, but there's probably going to be one big game that they upset someone middle to late in the season, and that will be what brings them back with momentum for the following year. That's just the vibe I get. I don't think they're going to be a very good football team, but I hopefully think that Matt Rhule can be the guy to get them closer to being a program that matters again.
Yeah. Here's where I'm at with Matt Rhule in Nebraska. I got no vibes.
I wanted it to be more fun. They're not fun.
Well, you can't play the 6, right? The 5 and 7.
No. 6 is the number.
Yeah.
6 is the number, Amal.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You can't play it over. You can't play it under. It's 5 and 7, 6 and 6, 7 and 5. That's the season for Big Red.
Totally agree. And if you want to go over, you got to pay $1.50. No chance.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.